Well, Venezuelans are voting in legislative and regional elections. It's the first time they've gone to the polls since last year's disputed presidential election. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro cast his vote in the capital Caracas. Opposition leaders called for a boycott of the vote and a low turnout is expected. This is the first election to be held in the disputed oil-rich region of Essequibo. Essequibo is internationally recognised as part of neighbouring Guyana. We can speak now to DW correspondent Oscar Schlenker, who's normally based in Caracas but joins me now from Austin, Texas. Oscar, thanks so much for your time. Now, Venezuelans' opposition basically says that these elections are a sham. They're calling for a boycott. So what are you hearing about how the election day is going?
Well, from the reports I'm receiving, the videos posted online, and the accounts of experts, there has been very low turnout to the voting polls. Even in the centers where the government has its strongholds, turnout hasn't surpassed 20%, and that is very low for Venezuelan standards. Some experts are calculating the overall turnout to be between 15 to 19%, which would be a historical low turnout for this type of elections.
And so given what you've just said, what type of result can be expected from that?
Well, the result will be favorable for the government. They handpick their candidates for the regional offices and expect to win even with low turnout. Of course, we are expecting the Electoral Council to announce a higher turnout than what we are seeing. This low turnout, as you said, was expected not only because of the lack of trust people have in the system since the last presidential election, but there were also several factors that the government made since the voting system that just didn't seem all that fair or free. For example, they eliminated the QR codes from the ballots, which was one of the safeguards the opposition used in the presidential elections last year to prove to the world that they indeed had won the elections.
Let's talk a bit more about this lack of trust, because Nicolas Maduro was essentially accused of stealing the presidential election last July. And given these elections happening now, how much faith do Venezuelans still have in the electoral process?
Not that much, and we can see that in today's low turnout. Trust in the system is not something that worries Maduro's authoritarian administration, because they have already announced that they will do a complete reform to all the electoral laws and system, and that will limit who and how voting will take place from now on.
Oscar, people are also voting in the region of Essequibo, but this is internationally recognised as being part of neighbouring Guyana, not Venezuela. So what's going on here?
Yeah, well, the dispute over the Essequibo is the oldest territorial dispute in history today. The area is controlled by Guyana, so the Venezuelan election of officials is being done in Venezuelan cities and towns close to the border. And it has been called by some of the candidates as a symbolic position. However, the designation of a governor and other officials to the National Assembly is intended to put pressure in the dispute and to have a permanent representation in Venezuela's National Assembly or Congress with the election of these officials today.
Thanks so much for that, Oscar. That's our correspondent, Oscar Schlenker, there on the Venezuelan elections. Thank you.
Thank you.